So it's been a minute since we've had this segment. We want to have a regular segment going forward with our buddy, the bloodstock manager of Arion Pedigrees. Andrew Stewart is back for Pedigree Corner. Hey, what's going on, Andrew?
Good to be here, guys. Early in the morning.
Is it good to be here?
I'm wide awake.
Is it good to be here checking in at 5 a.m. New Zealand time?
Yeah, it's still pretty dark outside.
So you're a trooper. We definitely appreciate you, and eventually Patty will figure out how time zones work. But we wanted you to come on mainly because we haven't spoken to you in a while, but also in particular to talk about the big Tappet cult that we bought. I keep saying we as if it were my investment, but DJ Stable, West Point Thoroughbreds, and a couple other partners went in on last week at OBS March, the $1.2 million son of Tappet, half to a graded stakes winner, really nice, super pedigree that you wouldn't normally see at a 2-year-old sale, only really came about because of the untimely passing of Bob Lothenbach. But we thought, obviously it's a nice pedigree on first glance, but there's got to be a lot more down below the first dam or two that really adds to the appeal of him. So, Andrew, just take us through it. What are some of the things that jump out to you about the now named Sandman's pedigree?
Yeah, well, as you say, it's not your normal North American pedigree. I think starting at the top, of course, who doesn't love Tappet? He's a champion sire three times. 150 odd stakes winners, graded stakes winners, probably being a little bit overshadowed now by some of the new boys. But just doing a superb job. And, the colts by out of a mare by Distorted Humor. And, I love Distorted Humor. He's becoming a great broodmare sire. He's the broodmare sire of, 21 grade or group 1 winners at the moment. I think he's the broodmare sire of 3 Pegasus Cup winners. There's a horse bred in Australia who's raced in Hong Kong, a horse called Golden 60, who's been the Hong Kong Horse of the Year 3 times and was world champion older miler last year. So, all out of Distorted Humor mares. That cross, it's a fairly new cross. There hasn't been a lot of progeny by Tappet out of Distorted Humor mares, but one horse that really stands out is Constitution, who was a multiple grade 1 winner and now at stud and doing a wonderful job there. So that's the top of the pedigree. Interestingly, the second dam music room by Unbridled Song started her breeding career in Australia. She was imported into Australia as a 3-year-old, didn't race, and then was sold. Had a foal, an unnamed foal, and then was sold and went back to North America. So she sort of had a bit of a roundabout route to where she is now. Of course, she's the grand dam of Moon Over Miami and She Can't Sing, the Bernardini, that's the half to Sandman. But I think further down the pedigree is where it gets really, really interesting. The third dam is by Sadler's Wells. The great European influence from the Northern Dancer line. She left 2 grade 1 winners in Music Note, who won 5 grade 1 races, Musical Chimes. Fourth dam is It's All in the Air. It was a fantastic mare. She won 17 races, I think 6 at grade 1 status. And it's just a family full of not only North American, but European. I think there's grade 1 winners in 7 countries, from the fourth dam up, basically. So, yeah, it's a great international pedigree by a wonderful sire. And I was looking at the 5 2-year-olds that made $1 million or more. And, I think on pedigree, and I know 2-year-olds you don't buy on pedigree, it's probably the last thing you look at. But on pedigree, if a horse like him can win a grade 1 race, he's a perfect horse to stand at start.
Yep, no question about it. And Andrew, one of the tools that we used in deciding, if we were going to buy this horse or not, Sandman, was we went ahead and went on Arion.co.nz and pulled up the 7x7 pedigree grid. And I was really amazed at just how much inbreeding is going on. Obviously, it starts with Unbridled and Mr. Prospector, but you go 7 generations back and you start seeing Nijinsky and Buckpasser and Prince Quillo. You would think that with those kind of inbreeding, with those stallions and mares that are crossed in the family, that the horse would be able to go 2 turns and even further. What does your analysis show when you look at a pedigree like this? Is he going to be a miler, or a mile and a quarter? What do you think his sweet spot's going to be in racing?
Oh, definitely. I think he's certainly got the pedigree to run a distance. I think the major problem you have in North America is there just aren't enough races over 2 turns. I was doing a bit of analysis last night, and there are only 220. There are 31,500 races run in North America last year. There was only 220 run at 10 furlongs or further. So
wow.
Yeah, and so you got your major race is a 10 furlong race. The Belmonts run at 12 furlongs, but there don't seem to be the races for those sort of horses. So he would probably be a perfect European classic type horse, because their racing program is more centered around races from a mile upwards, and on pedigree, he would just eat up the ground, I would think.
Well, maybe we had the king of sending American horses to Europe, Kenny McPeak, on the show a little earlier. So maybe we need a little bit of that influence in this partnership group. You never know. He could be a globetrotter at some point down the line. You mentioned the lack of distance races, just in general, like the decreasing foal crop and the decreasing number of races we have in America seems to be a major problem. But I'm interested to get a guy like you to chime in on our the state of our industry in America, because we're so wrapped up in it and so, kind of myopic sometimes in this business. Seeing it from the 30,000 foot view from across the world, like what are some of the things, Andrew, that jump out to you that American racing needs to fix?
Well, look, I mean, I'm no expert, as you say. I sort of observe from afar, but you've been having a discussion around the size of size of stallion books. I'm not overly concerned about stallions standing, covering, large books of mares. I think there's been a narrowing of the genetic base of the thoroughbred for hundreds of years, for a long time, and probably looking at it a selfish way, but in 200 years' time, are we going to have an industry? What's going to happen? I won't be here. So I don't think it's the huge thing. I think people go in with their eyes open. If you're going to send a mare to Golden Lad, was it, that served 250 mares? If you're going to send a mare there, you're going to know he's going to serve a big book, or you should ask the question. And so you go in with your eyes open. My more of a concern to me is the drop-off that these stallions seem to have in their 3rd and 4th years for no apparent reason other than there's a new crop of young horses coming through. And I'm not a breeder, so I can't speak from experience, but it just sort of amazes me a little bit that sort of thing happens. So that's one where I really I don't think capping stallion books will really have any impact at all on the genetic makeup of the horse. Gotcha. It's all about supply and demand, and that sort of leads into super trainers as well. And there's a couple of big super trainers in Australia. Chris Waller, who's a Kiwi, who's been very successful in Sydney for the last 20 years, and a younger guy called Kieran Maher, who's based in Melbourne. And between them, they've probably got 1,000 horses in work. But they seem to make it work. Chris Waller will run 5 or 6 horses under different ownerships in the same race. So we don't seem to have the same issue around filling races, because trainers seem to think, well, the horse is ready to race. The owners have been paying the bills. So if there are 3 or 4 stablemates in the same race, so be it. If we run 1, 2, 3, 4, it's good.
Great.
I mean, I don't know if you watch any of the Cheltenham races. The great Cheltenham Jumps Carnival last week was on in the UK, and I think the leading jumps trainer, Willie Mullins from Ireland, I think he took a team of about 50 over there. And there were 3 or 4 races where he ran 1, 2, 3, 4, but there was exciting racing. They were all trying. I've got no issue again with the super trainers. as long as they're entering their horses and filling races, and I know that is an issue for you guys, that there does seem to be a bit of a problem with them filling races. And I think just to segue again, that sort of leads into my third point around race distances. And I know you are a bit restricted because your tracks are all of a very similar shape. So you are a restricted affair, but 60% of races run last year were either run at 6 furlongs or between 8 and 8.5 furlongs. So to me, as a handicapper, I would prefer to be, and I'm used to watching a card of races where there are races from 1,000 meters to 2,400 meters.
Right.
That's just, I guess, something that I'm used to. I mean, it may be different for you guys. You're used to that sort of thing, the cards that are turned up, but there just doesn't seem to be a lot of variation. And that was my earlier point about horses, on the classic trail and further on. Your big handicap races have basically just have disappeared because there aren't races carded for horses to prepare for those big races. And so therefore, the races can't fill and the grade ones become grade twos and grade threes. And, some of those big handicaps are we've seen it a little bit here. Our 2 mile races, which were, the big handicaps here, have all turned into group 2 and group 3 races because we're a little bit the same. There's just not enough races being carded to prepare them. But we're probably not in as bad a situation as you guys are.
I was going to say, I think we only run 2 2-mile races in the entire calendar in the U.S.
Yeah.
So we're not in danger of overrunning the 2-mile races. But what's the field size like in Australia and New Zealand? Like that's the biggest thing for me. We got 7.2 or something in America, and that's like considered a jump.
Yeah, I think it's around just under 11.
Wow.
Yeah. I mean, a Saturday race card, which is, the main day of racing, will normally you'll see 12 or more per race. Yeah. And you're a handicapper, Joe, and so that's what you want to bet on, isn't it? You want to bet on a big field where the odds are good. We could now talk about, the CAWs that seem to be causing huge issues in North America there. And what's surprising is that some of them are owned by the tracks. Is that right?
Right.
Yeah. So really they're shafting their own customers. I mean, what's with that?
Yeah. No, you're preaching to the choir here. And it's like, I meant to bring this up the last time we talked about the CAWs. Like, if you're going to have that incestuous relationship between the tracks and the gaming companies and the CAW wagering platforms, like the least you could do is give your regular bettors some better rebates. Because like I get maybe 1% to 2% back on Naira bets, and that's nothing. Like that's absolutely nothing. Like I could bet $10,000 in a month and get like $140 back. Like that's gone in an instant if you bet like a pick 4 or a pick 3 or something. Like what is the deal with having not just having those relationships, but also not treating your regular bettors better? Like tell us about how it is in your neck of the woods, like in terms of ADWs, in terms of rebates and rewards and all that stuff. Do they treat the players better?
I think they do. I mean, I'm a regular bettor, but I'm not a big bettor. But I bet mainly fixed odds, and fixed odds is a big thing down here. The CAWs would have no impact on my betting, and I'm not sure of the numbers. I don't know how many people bet fixed odds against tote odds. But my betting myself, and I bet most days, I would probably be 90% fixed odds, because I know when I put my bet on what I'm going to get back. And even, as I say, I don't bet big numbers, so I'm not concerned if the tote odds are a little bit better than the fixed odds. I know what I'm going to get back. Yeah. And that's the big thing for me. And I think that would be I see one state has started fixed odds betting in North
New Jersey.
America. I don't understand why it's not a bigger thing. And our betting agency in New Zealand also runs sports betting. So we've got the advantage that the money bet on sports, or by punters who bet on sports, they're using the racing's facility, and so racing is linked in there, and we get a bit of a bit of a flow on effect. I know it's different over your way, and so it may not work that way over there. But yeah, fixed odds is a big thing here.
Yep. I would love to go somewhere where they treat me better. Treat me better as a bettor. That would be fantastic.
Well,
so yeah,
we're the lifeblood of the industry, aren't we? The bettor. The industry is all about the horse, but without the bettor, there's nothing, is there?
No, absolutely not. And without your pedigree insights, we really can't. We don't know much about the horses that we're buying. So, Andrew, thank you for coming on and explaining the Sandman pedigree for us. We'll have you back on soon. We'll talk a little bit about some of the Derby contenders, because that's to me, that's where we're looking for pedigree insights the most, is trying to figure out these horses. Can they go 10 furlongs? Can they go 12 furlongs? So there's no better place to figure that out than Arion Pedigrees. Arion.co.nz is the website. Andrew, thank you for the insights, brother.
Not a problem at all. And I think it was Tessio who said, all horses can run fast, just some of them run faster for longer. And that's what it's all about, isn't it?
They all can get the distance, just a matter of how fast.
Andrew, I think Tessio also said, hey, Patty, there's something called a computer where you could figure out time zones. I think it was Tessio who coined that.
I think it was too. He was a very wise Italian man.
He was very, very ahead of his time. Thanks for coming on so early, buddy. We appreciate it.
Not a problem. Great to see you guys.
Thank you so much.
You also.